like on show nights. I mean, this was awful, but after we get done with the show and everybody's gone home and we've done met and hung out with the fans and stuff like that, I'm so ready to go to bed.
Cool. Well, my name's Adam, and this is about you and your journey in music, and we'll talk about the new record as well.
Oh, awesome.
Sweet.
Thank you for having me on today.
Oh, yeah, of course. I did see, are you in Nashville, or are you from Nashville?
No, I'm in Kentucky, but I'm in Nashville frequently.
Okay, so I'm all confused then.
Yeah, well, I live like an hour and a half away from Nashville.
Okay, I'm south of Nashville, so that's why I was curious.
Yeah, I'm about an hour and a half north.
Right on. So did you grow up in Kentucky then?
Yeah, I've grown up in Kentucky my whole life, since I was probably about 10.
Oh, okay. Where were you born?
Villarica, Georgia.
Okay, and you lived there till 10, and then you moved to Kentucky?
Yeah, about that time.
What was it like living in Georgia?
I don't really even remember,
Really?
It's
Okay.
been so long ago. It's just like, it's basically the same thing as Kentucky with more pine trees.
Okay. When did you get into music? Were you into music prior to moving to Kentucky?
No, I started playing, I think I was 11 or 12.
Okay.
And that's when I started playing the guitar, and I didn't really start singing until I was probably 25.
Really?
Yeah, so the singing was a new development because I was writing songs, and nobody wanted to sing any of my songs, so I had to sing them myself.
Okay. Well, what drew you to guitar at 11 years old?
My dad played, and my mom played.
Oh, that's awesome. Like just as hobbies or professionally, or?
My dad played professionally. My mom more hobby.
Really?
And, that's kind of how I got started in music to begin with.
Was through your parents?
Yeah.
Okay. And dad was a songwriter, or is he a touring musician, or?
He was a touring and studio bass player.
Really?
Yeah, for a long time, and they didn't really do anything super big or anything, but I was always into it, and they did one Nashville album, and believe it or not, they never even released it. So,
Oh, wow.
so I told him that now with the modern, all the DSPs and stuff you can go on, you don't really need a record label to release stuff. I told him I was going to put him on Spotify.
You should. That'd be so awesome. Does he have the record? Does he have like recordings of it?
Well, we've got the CD, so it was like it's kind of a process of burning the CD and then like converting all those files to WAV files.
Oh, okay.
So there's a whole lot more
a few more
studio
steps.
engineering on this than I thought was when I originally said I was going to do it.
That's cool. I'm sure he would be so stoked to see that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I thought it'd be like cool for his birthday or something.
Yeah, you're like, just send him a link for his birthday. He's like, what the hell is this? And it's his record on Spotify. That'd be awesome.
I think my mom would like it better.
Do you remember seeing him like perform or anything like that as a kid?
Oh yeah, man. I basically grew up in a recording studio.
Wow.
I mean, they were always there, and I mean, he couldn't really get rid of us, so we kind of snatched us in there, and we brought some toys and stuff in. They'd go back in the sound booth, and they'd leave us in the little kitchen area to hang out.
That's funny. That's awesome. Well, I've said this a few times in this podcast, but like sometimes you'll talk to people that's parents are musical and then they want no interest in it, right? Or they're a parent and their kids want nothing to do with what they do. But the fact that your dad was into that and you were into it as well, that's really cool.
Well, he didn't want me to do this. That's for sure.
Oh. He wanted you to have a backup plan.
Yeah, it was like, get a real job. And then after, I guess he just kind of figured I wasn't going to do that.
Right.
He was like, man, go to Nashville and figure it out for yourself. And that's kind of where I started, was because I didn't really have no interest in doing it until everybody told me not to.
Oh, okay.
So
of course, right?
Well, everybody's like, oh, you're going to do that? That's dumb. I was like, no, You know what? I wasn't going to do it, but now I am.
Right. Well, okay. Well, I want to back up a little bit here. So 11, pick up the guitar. Mom and dad play guitar. Did they teach you how to play guitar as well?
Dad wrote, he took a piece of notebook paper and he like kind of made some lines and some dots with like frets. And he was like, go
like
learn
some
this
tab.
chord. Yeah. Well, I was more of a chord chart.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
He sit me back in my room and was like, learn these. And then you learn these, I'll teach you 3 more.
Oh, okay. So
So
he helped you, but he wasn't like kind of forcing it on you or making you sit in front of him, like learn lessons or anything like that.
no, and I think you know, the way I learned how to play guitar is it wasn't very technical, but I've developed my own strumming pattern, the way I play, and it's helped me write songs because nobody else plays like me. Because I kind of taught myself as much. And you know, I learned all the tabs and you know, charts and all that stuff later. But growing up, I didn't know anything about any of that stuff. I just learned how to play.
That's cool. I'm not good at guitar. I can play chords and that's about it. But I was self-taught and my neighbor played, and I still to this day will hold the pick with my middle finger. And like, I didn't realize I was holding it wrong. Cause I guess you're supposed to hold your pointer finger and your thumb. And I was playing with my middle finger and my thumb.
Mine's all weird too. So it's like, I kind of hold it like from the
Oh, you
bottom.
grip it. Okay.
Yeah.
I was doing this and it took me like, literally, I just learned this, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. Somebody's like, you play guitar with the wrong hand. Like your fingers are on the wrong pick. I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, you're supposed to play like this. Oh, whoops. Well, that was 15 plus years down the drain, I guess.
Yeah, then you'll never figure out how to do it with the other finger now.
No, I've tried and it's like nearly impossible for me. But I'm not good enough and I don't do it professionally, so it doesn't really matter. But it's just one of those things I'm like, oh, I guess that would be something I'd learn. Because my son's learning guitar now and like he's playing and he's learning all the, you know, scales and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know how to do any of that.
I had to learn that much later, and I think it was harder for grown-up Dustin to learn how to do all that. My brain was already set and was like, I know how to play guitar. I don't need to know all this crap. But yeah,
right.
If you want to do this for a living, you have to know that crap.
right, exactly. So go ahead.
Yeah, it's just you know, it's hard. I think it's hard for anybody to learn anything new after they've done it a certain way for so long.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree with you. Well, you learn guitar, dad's kind of helping you learn, and then are you playing in bands or anything, or how quickly do you start trying to write music yourself?
Well, I played in some bands in high school, and I don't know if you can call it bands or not, because it was terrible.
Everyone starts somewhere, right?
Yeah, I think we played up at the pool hall in Bardstown, Kentucky, and I think like 4 people showed up, and the pool hall guy was like, "Can y'all just turn this down and stop by 10?" And we're like, "Oh." And yeah, the bands weren't good until I was probably in my 20s, and that's when I really started writing my own music, trying to pursue a songwriting career.
And what was, you said people told you couldn't do it, and that was part of the reason why you were like, I'm gonna do it. But like, how did that all start? Like, what made you decide to like really pursue writing music yourself and making this a life?
Well, I had moved to Nashville.
Oh, you did? Okay.
And I had a manager, and I mean, I was half in, half out at this point, and we were looking for a publishing deal because I had wrote like 3 or 4 songs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it wasn't nothing serious. I had got a couple of them on the radio up in Kentucky.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, well, we'll take us down there, and we pitched and talked to everybody, and my manager was like, listen, kid, he said, you don't sing very good. You have no fan base, and your songs are weak.
Ouch. Well, real quick on the 2 songs that you had, a couple songs at the radio. Is that like on a local station? Like what?
That's just local radio play.
But you play, but it was your songs and you singing and everything?
Yeah.
Or you said, oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I had cut some demos in my buddy's garage, and
Okay.
like this wasn't a serious project like that. We had no intent. It was just for fun.
Uh-huh.
And
And
then
then how did they land on the radio? Were you just sending them into the stations?
I think I posted on like Facebook or something like that, just a video or something. And Eddie Ray, one of the local DJs up here at Q1031, was like, "You got to get your band to come down here and play for our Q1031 showcase." And I was like,
Oh, wow.
"I don't have a band." So we had to throw together this band and go play this show, and went pretty well because I mean all the guys were actually good musicians, and they showed up and learned everything, and that's kind of when I was like, yeah, maybe we ought to give this a shot. And that's when I moved to Nashville, and I kind of worked at Tootsie's for a while.
Oh, really? As just a musician there?
Yeah, I was doing the cover song circuit there in the mornings with the acoustic guitar.
That's cool. That's a hard place, I would imagine, to get into.
Yeah, they used to have auditions. I don't know if they still do. It was auditions on Sundays, and you go in there and you play like 1.5 songs, and they'd say, "All right, we'll call you in the morning if we're gonna hire you."
Really?
They'd call you at 6 o'clock, or 6 o'clock in the morning, until they divvy out everybody's shifts on where you're supposed to go play for the day. And if you don't do good, you get bumped, and it'll be like 2 or 3 days before they'll call you to get one. I
So
didn't
they
have
call you like every morning. So like like a substitute teacher, like at 6 a.m. They're like, okay, we need you at blah, blah,
and you
blah.
had to be awake to catch that phone call, because if you didn't, you didn't get to work that day.
And well, because they own what, a bunch of bars down there, or book a bunch of bars down there. How does that work?
Yeah, like Honky Tonk Central, Tootsie's, and Rippies.
Okay. And so
I'm not sure, they may own a whole bunch now. It's been a long time since I've been down there.
right, but that's interesting. So what you had to learn, because they've got like I'm sure a list of 200 plus songs that you're supposed to know and play.
Yeah, you're supposed to know them, but I had like a whole list of other songs I knew, so I just played those, and would only, like, if one of the bosses were there, I'd kind of hope for the request deal and just pull it up on your phone and do it that way.
Okay. Wow. So from the radio station thing, you decided that was when you're like, okay, let's take a shot at this. And then you moved to Nashville, and then to try to get into the scene there, that's when you decided, let's try to audition at Tootsie's.
Yeah.
Okay. And then obviously you get it. That's huge in itself.
But that was basically like my job. Like, that's what I thought about as my job. And then I had this other guy that was I don't know if you'd call him a manager. That's what I thought of at the time. He was helping me managing what I was trying to do. And he finally told me, he's like, "Man, you need to go back home, learn how to sing, and build a fan base." And then he said, if you can do that, he said, then come back to Nashville. He said, probably don't just come down here with pipe dreams and nothing.
Wow. And real quick, you said you didn't start singing until you're 25. What changed? Is that when you started the band that got on the radio?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was that. I had started singing, and people were just like, "You're not very good at it."
Wow.
And I wasn't. I listened back to some of my earlier recordings and stuff, like some of those demos and stuff, and I'm like, "Man, this is terrible stuff." And
I'm sure everyone's has a similar path to that. They don't just walk out and are crazy. I mean, maybe some people, but like most, I would think, don't just crush it right out the gate.
Natural vocal ability, I don't understand that, because I had to work extra hard to get where I'm at, singing, and I worked my tail off for it. There was times that when we got more serious into it, when I did go back home, when we put together a band, and we started playing every single night of the week.
Wow. And that's after your manager told you to head out?
Yeah, he told me just, basically give up. And I was
so
like,
you go real quick. Yeah. So you go home, and then that's when you tell me, you get this news. This guy tells you that. And then you're like, okay, well, I guess I should just take off. And then tell me what happens next.
I went back home. I got a job working in a prison.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Doing what?
It was terrible.
It sounds terrible.
I was a corrections officer.
Oh, so
And
you had to like walk around the jail and everything?
yeah, dude. And it lasted for like, I think 3 months. I stayed there and I was like, I do not want to do this job.
That would be
And
so scary.
it, it was, that wasn't as scary as much. I did not want to be a grown up babysitter.
Oh, that's a good point.
Like
Yeah.
a top 10 arguments that happened in that place was like over the microwave. Uh, I'm not dealing with this. I hate
What, people not clearing the numbers or something?
or no, just like who gets to use it at what time.
Oh, okay.
Like you had to make out a microwave schedule on who got to use the microwave, so nobody like beat anybody up or anything.
Oh my gosh, that's interesting.
It's a terrible job. Like I don't, especially for creatives and folks that like to play music. Like it's the opposite of where we want to work.
Okay. So you're working there, and then are you also trying to form a band?
Yeah, I started playing. I started playing with a buddy of mine I went to school with, and he was just messing around town, and that led into the search for the band and putting that together, and it almost took a year to get the right folks together to even play in a band, and after that, man, we started playing every single night. And I just kind of gave up work and was living off like the $200 a week that I was
Wow. Yeah.
from playing music, because there wasn't a whole lot of, but there was always food. You could always eat at the bar or whatever. They called meals and stuff, so we didn't starve to death. But I think 3 of us were living together for a good long while. We all lived together and split rent and utilities and just stayed after this music stuff. And eventually we hooked up with this promoter in Lexington, Kentucky, and he had a bunch of out-of-state gigs. And that's when he started sending us out on the road. And it was mostly cover band stuff and not a lot of opportunity to play anything that I wrote.
Okay.
And that's when I started working on my very first record, and really dived into songwriting and read a whole lot and tried to figure out why my songs were not coming out the way I wanted them to, and we ended up with the She Does album, which was the very first record we ever put out.
That was the EP you did? Or
Yeah,
was it like 2016, or is it before that?
That's before that. This was 2014.
Oh, okay. So 2014.
Yeah, if anybody goes to check that out, Kid Gloves. It was my first project, and we released it independently, and
Okay.
it was the first time that we done anything and got out there and started playing our own music, and some of the people liked some of the songs and kind of established us as a band that could go out and do cover music and did our own stuff. So I've getting a little bit better gig spots and a lot more Friday night and Saturday night spots, because people were actually showing up to, because when you're doing original music, you're playing stuff that nobody
haven't heard, right?
Nobody else can hear it unless they come to your show. So that's the biggest part of how I got to here, was through all that journey of craziness.
And then eventually, obviously, you start building a fan base, and then you go back to Nashville and call that guy, or just never get reconnected?
That apparently I didn't know this, but years later that guy had died.
Oh my god! Well, okay. Guess you didn't need to reconnect.
Yeah, there was no need to like, hey, dude, what's up? I mean, I tried to get a hold of him, and it was like, oh yeah, he's dead. Oh
Yikes.
Man, dang.
Yeah.
So, I ended up we put out I think Stay Gone and all that stuff on that record. And we got contacted by a publisher here in Nashville, and they said, can you come in and do a co-write? And I came down and we did, I think, a 3 or 4 song deal there where I did 3 or 4 songs with them, and that's what got me into the music business, and was like, okay, this is how it's really done.
Okay.
What I needed to do from there. And so I ended up with another producer. I'd met Bill McDermott through the publishing company.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill was like, man, I'll give you a good deal. Come on in. He said, let's get in the studio. He said, what do you got? And we did, I think, a 3-song demo that turned into the It's Been a While EP.
Okay, that's one I was thinking of.
Yeah, so, and that's when we did Texas Was You, Cold Dead Hands, and Pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And we did Cold Dead Hands, which is the Second Amendment song. And I had thrown up a video of me doing it acoustically, and I think it got 700 something thousand views.
Whoa.
Like, we got to record this song.
Yeah. It just like people it just went viral online.
Yeah, it just went through the roof.
That's amazing.
And yeah, man, it was wild. And we ended up releasing the song, and I got a call from like NRA Country.
Mm-hmm.
I thought was super weird, because I'm like, how do these people know me? And I didn't really realize that at the time that Facebook, when that many people see stuff, I didn't understand what viral was at that particular point in time. I think we were early 2017, 2016 when we first did Cold Dead Hands. So we were still 2 years away from record deal and putting that album out.
Oh, okay.
And I ended up with another guy that was helping me in Nashville, Joe Patrick, and he was awesome, man. He's a great guy. He's since passed as well. And a lot of older fellers that really liked my music. And we took it and got contacted by the NRA country division, and they had started in Nashville, and they put me out at their national convention, and also included it in their publication, which I think has got like 8 million gun owners. And of course the song's Cold Dead Hands is about, gun ownership and the Second Amendment. And when we put it out for sale, it went ridiculous. And this is a truest story I've got that's funny. I get this weird phone number that calls me, and I was like, who is this? And I answered it, and I was like, who is this? And they was like, this is Alex from Billboard magazine. And I just hung up on him. In my living room, I just hung up on him. I was like, somebody's screwing with me. They called back. I answered. I was like, all right, who is this for real? And he's like, this is Alex from Billboard magazine. He said, is this Dustin Collins? I said, yes. He said, Cold Dead Hands is #1 on our hot single sales chart. And I literally just said, you're shitting me. and he said, no, sir. And I was like, well, what's that mean? And he was like, well, you guys sold X amount of copies, and this is where it's at. And there I was, like, sitting in my my double-wide trailer in Shepherdsville, Kentucky, and I was like, I got #1 record right now.
That's so awesome.
And I was like, I got a show tonight at the county line up here. There's going to be about 79 people there, and we're going to rock this #1 song out.
That's so amazing, though. Did you get any backlash from that? Or not from Billboard, but from people? Because obviously NRA is kind of a touchy subject in certain areas. Were people hating on you at all?
I immediately called a publicist.
Oh, good call.
Publicist was like, because I was getting some interview requests, and I had already done one with like Brett Bart. And I said some silly crap that made me sound like a hillbilly.
Okay.
I gotta walk this back a little bit, because I was like talking about tea and biscuits, and it was ridiculous, and it got printed. So I had to call Scott in, my publicist, and was like, look, man, you got to save me from myself. And he said, we got you. He said, this is a great song. He says, great message. He said, there's no reason to mess any of this up. And he's like, I got you from here. And he's been great ever since. That's
amazing.
He saved me from probably screwing it all up before it ever started.
Yeah.
Because, is a temperamental subject, and a lot of people don't like it, but that's what good music is. It challenges people's opinion. If you don't like it, you don't have to listen to it.
Right. Exactly. I completely agree with you. And with that, like, I mean, from there, obviously you have a lot of eyes on you, and then you put out your next record. It's been a while. And what was, how did that album react? And like, what was your kind of takeaway from that record?
I couldn't believe how many people like complimented that album, and just because where I was, where I started feeling growth as a musician and as a person. Really, just to hear all these people that before wouldn't even speak to me or about music, they'd be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, whatever." You just kind of get that in Nashville. You'll get if you're not doing anything, you just kind of get washed under the rug. Nobody really wants to fool with you or talk with you, and until they do, and it's kind of a weird transition point that just happens, and you don't even quite know that it happened. So all of a sudden, you're going from just playing your gigs and hanging out by yourself, on a Tuesday night to all of a sudden you're getting invited to writers' nights and hanging out with some cool people and learning how to write songs. And it just kind of happens all of a sudden. And I don't even really remember when it happened that I was now involved in Nashville more so than I was ever the first time I moved there. And I thought it was really cool with that album to see all of that come together.
Did you get some? I mean, I'm just looking at your stuff. You've toured with a lot of huge artists. Was that all around that same time as well, or is that earlier due to like? I mean, Clay Walker is one that shoots out to me just because he lives here in town, and actually he goes to my church, and it's just weird to see or it's cool to see his name on there, but it's like he's a huge artist, right?
Oh yeah, man. Clay was super awesome. That was actually probably a few months ago.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, that wasn't that long ago. But like during that time we were doing a lot of opening, a lot of stuff for some radio stations, a lot of stuff for some of the big chain bars. And that got us into anytime they brought a national act in, they'd have to call somebody to open. And generally in Louisville and Cincinnati and Lexington, we'd get those spots.
That's amazing.
And, Aaron Watson, they were kind enough to actually take us out on the road, as well as Tanya Tucker, which those were the biggest learning experiences I've ever had as a musician, just seeing these guys are at the top of the game and this is what it's really like. And there's no room for mistakes, because I mean, if people, your fans, the people that care about you and that listen to your music, if you can't go out and deliver to them what they paid for, you're just not doing your job, and you're not going to have fans that long, because you got to respect their hard-earned money that they're paying out to go see you. They're the reason you have a job. And if you go out there and suck, or you're not pulling your weight, that's just, you're letting yourself down, as well as the people that took their time out and to follow you and come to your shows. And watching these guys perform, there was no air in their sets. They every night they would play the same set. It would start at this time, end at this time, and it was perfect.
Just like clockwork, because if you're, I mean, obviously you have to be, if you're at that level, it's the reason why you have the fans, right? And the songs is because you're disciplined.
And it showed us as the opening band who didn't know what we were doing. We were going out there just, heck yeah, rock and roll. And I checked every night. I didn't know what we were doing. I had no idea how to sell merch. I had no touring experience other than playing in like bars. Now we've gone from the local 100 seat bar over here to a place like Coyote Joe's that seats 3,500.
That's amazing.
You're like, holy crap. And then, even from that time to now, I'm still continuously learning, because you go from a venue like that to where you're opening for somebody like Tanya, there's 12,000 seats sold out.
Right.
And that gets, you always want to, I feel like we've grown each step of the way into what we're doing now. And we've been given time or forced into taking time to develop into that next spot.
Mhm.
Because, if you get out there and you're not ready for something, you might not get another chance to do it.
Mhm. And I love to hear that because I mean, when I was growing up as a kid, I would just assume like, oh, like, these rock stars just they get wasted backstage and it's party, and then they just come out and just kind of wing it. And it's always awesome. And it's like, no, that's nothing like what is happening. It's like, you guys are like, if you looked at an athlete, the people that are training and training and training and training and training every day to play those games and play that sort of, with that many people on you and everything else, like, I think it kind of gets muddy there with, like, if you think about like the Motley Crues of the world, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure that a lot of things have changed since since the '80s and
Right,
'90s.
but it's like that's kind of the mindset that I had as a kid growing up. I'm like, whoa, like these guys, they don't even like care. They're just like getting messed up, and then they just get to come out and rock.
I want to know if Alan Jackson partied like backstage. Was he back there just like pounding Miller Lights back in the early '90s? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe one day I'll get to meet him and ask him, like, hey, what were you guys really doing on the chat?
Yeah, but it's just like, I think it's just it's awesome to hear, and I've heard that you see these people on the road, and it's just they are. I mean, it's their job. It's super serious, and that's why it's so good.
Well, too, man, I can attest to this being out on the road. Like, when I was younger, we'd go out to the bar after the show or whatever,
Mhm.
and now, like on show nights, I mean, this was awful, but after we get done with the show and everybody's gone home and we've done met and hung out with the fans and stuff like that, I'm so ready to go to bed. Like I don't want to hear the radio. I don't want to hear nothing when I get in the van or the car or whatever we're in. I want silence for like at least 2 hours, and I want to go to sleep.
Just totally decompress.
Especially the bigger shows, like the ones with Clay and the bigger shows that we've done. I'm like, man, that's a lot of things to take in. Like it,
Mhm.
and then
Yeah.
there's so many people like that want to talk to you. And I'm like, because I'm kind of naturally a shy dude, other than the music stuff.
Uh-huh.
Kind of served to myself, and it's really weird to go out and people that actually want to talk to me about my music, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, you want to talk about my music, but I always the point of being a fan of somebody's always kind of been strange to me, that people seek out people to go talk to. I don't know. I always considered myself just some dude with a guitar that's singing, not the whole celebrity aspect of these shows and stuff. Just the mayhem that ensues at some of these places.
Yeah. Well,
I like,
I mean,
like Clay Walker was outstanding. That's one of the best shows I've ever witnessed.
really, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
it was killer. And just sitting there in the front row after our set, I was like, holy crap, these guys are the real deal.
Mhm.
And
He's one of the sweetest dudes ever, too. He's so nice, like
he
beyond nice.
he was super nice to us. They greeted us and stuff. And a lot of times the closing act doesn't do that.
Right. They usually don't. I mean, they don't have to, right? They're the reason why probably the majority of the people are there. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some of them, you can't even get a picture with. So
Oh, okay.
I'm not gonna throw any names out there,
Right.
but
But
there's some of them that don't even want to meet you, and you're like, oh, that's kind of screwed up. But oh well.
yeah.
But
Oh,
like
well.
Clay was super awesome. Tanya was super awesome. I
That's
love her.
cool.
She is something else.
That's amazing. Well, I want to talk to you real quick about your record, Working Man.
It's been my long haul project, man. Been working on it for about a year and a half, almost 2 years.
Did it start after lockdown happened?
I started it before lockdown because we were doing really well off. It's been a while.
Mhm.
It charted somewhere like number 25 on the country music independent, and
That's huge.
like 23 on the overall chart.
Uh-huh.
And we were on a roll. I think we had played our first headlining arena show. It was a smaller arena. It was for a major rodeo, and they hired us as a headliner. So we were kicking tail, getting on it and staying on the road. And then I think we had like 74 shows already booked in 2020. And I remember March 15th was the last show we played, and it was for the SEC tournament in Nashville. And we played an event it's called the Kentucky Takeover Show, and it was a bunch of Kentucky bands that were down there playing.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no idea that was going to be the last time we stepped on stage for a year and a half.
That's crazy.
And that Monday, I think the 15th was a Wednesday. That Monday, my entire schedule was canceled. So I was like, damn it.
Yeah. I mean, what a heart-wrenching thing. Not only is there a pandemic, but it's like, and my whole year of shows or whatever is all gone.
It's like now I'm gonna also not play shows but have to live in poverty.
On the prison.
No, I actually
I'm kidding.
All my buddies back here were real cool and off go do some, they needed some general labor, and I busted my back there for a little while, and which is good for me because I think that's being back home during that time and having to go to work and having to do these things that I haven't done because I've been wrapped up in the music really got me in a mood to write what's come to be this album. And
oh, interesting. Well, now the title makes sense to me.
Yeah, that was kind of our whole thought behind it was and the song Working Man on there. It's I wanted to do something as a tribute to these guys that get up every day and at 5 o'clock in the morning, and they spend their whole lives trying to make other people's lives better. The farmer, the truckers, the guys that are some people don't even appreciate the guys that are out there on the roof after a hailstorm. These guys, your house don't leak. And that's kind of what I wrote that song. Well, not kind of, it is what I wrote that song about. And it kind of led into the rest of my album about I wanted to do something way more mature. I didn't want to make any political statements. I wanted to tell the story of my life through this record. And I think that after I finished it, I think personally that I accomplished what I set out to with writing it. And all the people that wrote with me or wrote songs on this that they got selected, that we picked because those were songs that I loved that, told a part of my story that I either couldn't or never even thought about that way. So there's songs like Georgia that are on there that I connected with immediately, and like Right Now, who Brett Eldridge wrote, and that's a heartbreak song, and I've done some heartbreaking and had mine crushed a few times. So it's kind of right in there with that whole song. So I really wanted this to be a grown up album, and bringing in Buddy Cannon to produce a couple of the tracks was,
huge, right? the records he's done. Yeah.
Better than that.
And you brought Bill McDermott back too, right?
Oh yeah, Bill co-produced, and we just ended up with something that I'm over the moon to have, and I've listened to it maybe 9,000 times since I got finished, and I'm still not tired of playing the songs on it.
That's amazing.
I feel like if you're gonna have an album, you better love all the songs, because you're gonna play nothing but these songs for the next year and a half.
And you have you're donating stuff to a great cause as well, right?
Dummy Camp USA. I joined the military when I was 17. I wasn't a combat MOS or anything. I'm a mechanic.
Oh, I didn't realize that. So you were doing that also before you started doing the music thing.
Yeah, that was the 17 to 20 20s years.
Okay.
20s. And so Gummy Camp came about. My manager, Mike Kraski, was consulting these guys, and I was reading about them, and I was like, who are these guys? And he told me, he said, they are helping the worst veterans with mental illnesses and putting them up in they got billeting was the military term for it, or small, tiny houses, basically giving them a place to live and get off the street, and also giving them the training to get, their VA medical benefits or whatever help they need to get back into society. And you see a lot with veterans charities that, a lot of the money that gets donated doesn't actually go to the veterans. And this is something that I could, feel like I would like to be a part of, because you can physically see what they're doing for these people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you can spread that all over the country, it's going to make us a better place for taking care of those guys.
I love that. And I love that you're donating part of the record and the single, right? The song?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think the single we're the lead single are what we're donating out. We're also going to be doing some charity shows for them this year, where we come out and try to raise money for them, and because I think there's different states that they're wanting to open up some more camps.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've been talking about doing those shows in those areas to try to raise the money to get the camps at least started, or the property paid for, or whatever they're needing to move that project forward.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. And I appreciate your time, Justin. This has been so great. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Man, thank you for having me.
Yeah. One more quick question before I let you go. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Don't quit.
I like that.
That's the only advice I can have is if you love it, don't quit.